Finally. Oh my. It has been too long. It has been 3 months since I've ridden this bike. Finally got it back with all the issues fixed, running fine. So I had written this off. I had thought that losing oil pressure was going to be the death sentence for this engine, and that we were going to be down with lots of costly repairs, taking even longer than it did. But luckily, that is not the case. All right, so an oil pressure problem. It was not just a sensor or anything like that. The problem was not the oil pump. It was making some pressure, but it was not making enough pressure. And the reason that it wasn't making enough pressure is because there is a little manifold tube, or a oil feed subassembly is what it's called in the parts manual. And that tube is to feed oil to the crankshaft bearings. The problem is that the way that tube is made and the way that it's drilled out to machine the passageways, they have to put a plug on one end where the tooling went in to machine it. And apparently the early models of Pan America, which mine was made in May of 2021. The early models, that plug was just a something that was pressed in. And there have been some reports of other early model bikes having that pressed in plug work its way loose. And that's what happened in mine. Now, I don't think it worked its way completely loose, but loose enough that oil was getting by and it was not building the pressure that it needed to. The fix is an updated oil manifold that, instead of a pressed-in line, has a threaded line that they then thread a plug into, that screws into it, and screw it in good and tight, and hopefully that solves the issue. The real kicker for me is that in order to get to that, to replace that part, it's behind the primary cover on the clutch side, on the right-hand side of the engine. And earlier this year, I had that all tore apart to replace the clutch assembly, and that oil line was right there. And I had heard that early bikes had issues with that one, and I had thought about it. I had thought about replacing it preventatively while I had everything tore apart. But I didn't have that thought until after I started and had everything all tore apart. And I didn't want to wait to order the part, have the bike sitting there in disarray for however long it would take to get that part. And so I just proceeded with buttoning up the clutch job and thought to myself, well, maybe sometime, in the future, I'll preventatively, replace that part. Yeah, so that came back to bite me. I do consider myself lucky that there was no apparent damage to the motor itself. Both the technician that worked on it at the dealer said that there was no metal in the oil. And before I took the bike to the dealer and dropped it off, I had took a sample of oil out of the engine and sent it off for my own independent oil analysis. Blackstone Labs, a big company that does that here in the US. And the oil analysis I got back was passed with flying colors. They said it was a great oil sample, and I even told them that this sample was taken after the engine had lost oil pressure. I don't know how long I had the engine running like that. Like, was it seconds? Was it minutes? Certainly no more than 5 or 10 minutes, I would think, because I would think I would notice that light. But I'm focusing eyes ahead on the twisty curves that I'm riding, and I'm not really focused on whether or not a light comes on the instrument panel, especially if I'm riding aggressively and hanging off the bike a little bit, which happened to be the case at the time. But as soon as I did notice it, pulled off as soon as it was safe to do so, which was literally within 2 minutes of me seeing the light, shut the engine down. So I'm sure that helped to save from any permanent damage. So as I mentioned in my other video, where I talked about the issues, I did have the extended service plan, and yeah, extended service plan is not as great as it's cracked up to be, I guess, as far as covering all of the associated expenses. The service plan does not cover diagnostics, so the time that the technician spent actually putting a oil pressure gauge on the bike and doing some tests and looking to see where a potential loss of pressure could be, all of that time was billed to me. I had to pay that out of pocket. Once he had confirmed what the issue was, then ESP kicked in and covered the parts and labor to replace that, which wasn't a whole lot. It's a $200 part, and I think it was like 3 hours worth of labor for that. But I'm just happy to have it back in running condition, out enjoying it. I just picked it up from the dealer today, and getting a little ride in before the sun sets here in central Pennsylvania. Got a lot of new content planned. I just need to make the time to do it all. I got a new CarPlay unit, Android Auto, that has dash cams and blind spot detection that I'll be installing and testing out. I'll probably be doing a chain replacement video sometime over the upcoming winter. I don't really need a chain. It still has some life left. But I'm just going to go ahead and replace it early so I can show you guys what's all involved in that. Now, I got a fresh coolant change as part of them doing the work, trying to find the oil issue. But I might do a coolant change this coming winter time as well, just to show that. So we'll see. It seems like the cooler months is when I do the majority of my content filming as far as maintenance on this bike or any bike, just because on the warmer temperatures, I'm either busy out riding it or I'm busy, teaching riding classes. But anyway, that's my update. So we can attribute this to a early model design flaw that was fixed subsequently. I believe it was fixed the first year, I don't know for certain, but I think it was sometimes in the middle of the 2021 run that they updated that particular part. But again, mine being one of the early bikes, and yeah, as I said before, you buy first model, you buy first year release of something, and these are the risks that you take. But anyhow, as you can see, the sun is on its way down to the horizon there, and so I'm going to enjoy the rest of my ride. Thanks for watching, everybody, and ride safe.